I'm in Roanoke, Virginia at a good friend of mine's house in a studio that I built back last year for them. And we're talking about why filmmakers should do other things besides film to make their films better. So I need to introduce Stephen to everybody. Stephen is a good friend of mine. Stephen actually married my wife and I.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I did do that. It was great. I would 10 of 10 recommend marrying Enoch and Aaron as an officiant. It's a great time.
But I thought I decided I'd make a video this week kind of talking about doing other things in your career, aka I built this podcast studio.
Which, by the way, I want to say to you, thank you. Like from our organization and ministry's perspective, it's been a huge, just a huge help. And I would highly recommend Enoch in his field of work, which I'm going to let him tell you about. But
Okay,
I wanted to say
where's my
thank
wallet?
you. Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for this because it turned out better than we could ever imagine.
I'm super glad. And we can't forget that also had my good friend Titus, who's not here today, who helped us out and absolutely crushed it over here.
Shout out Titus. Titus, I will never forget Titus working on this computer and how it synced with our Stream Deck.
Yes,
and he was watching YouTube videos for it seemed like hours. But Titus is a hero. So shout out Titus.
Yes. So why are we actually making this video today? I think it's something that we've actually talked about a lot. Is when you're working in, the documentary field, or in your case, ministry, or sometimes there's things that you need to do to supplement your career, or other work that you need to do that isn't necessarily your main function, your main goal, like documentary would be for me. There is also, I have a little bit of a different scenario because I'm doing a lot of work with one specific client. And so they funded this project as well, but it's not a documentary. And so sometimes there are use cases where you just need to do other things that your skill set encompasses, or, are related to your skill set to help you do the projects you want. And we've talked about this a lot. You pastored at a church for a while, and now you're working in leadership in a ministry. And
I have like a slight leadership position on a part-time basis with our church now. And so I would completely agree with what you're saying, because I would actually go as far as to say the 9-to-5 primary one job type of thing, that's kind of a fad that's going by the wayside, in my opinion. And that's a way deeper context and way deeper story. We don't need to get into all that. But the point is that times are changing, and the era of the side hustle, I believe, is here. And it's not to say to do your job. So to documentarians and people who are in film, don't do your job less. Pour all you are into it, but find the edges of your time in your life and find other things to pour it into. Like even this podcast studio, you and I were talking about it for our ministry. This is not our main thing.
Right.
But this has become a side ministry of our ministry that funnels into the greater mission of what we're doing and helps us reach people that we never had the opportunity to do. And that came as a result of you getting connected with something that you're really good at on the side, right? And you coming and helping us build this out. So you finding that time on the edges of your life helped us find time on the edges of our ministry to reach this whole new demographic, and the results are awesome. So I think that's just like a really cool picture of the point you're trying to make. Yeah. And I think, as we look to create art, right, I think it is important to still do other things. Now, this is a lot closer related to film and TV than other jobs would be, but I've been told by people before that it is very important to pick up other work and just have other experiences, because let's face it, if as a documentarian, I'm telling real stories of real people, and so if I have not experienced similar things or know of other story, like how am I going to find other stories if I'm not out
in the world experiencing life and meeting new people and like building, like we had to go to a farm and find this pallet wood. And so like all of
it's nice. We loaded it
nice.
Into a trailer and we wiped the cow manure off of it and hosed it down and then cleaned it with cleaning solution. And it was an experience.
Right. But all of that to say, like, we had to make the connection with Alan, who's an awesome farmer, super cool guy. But like I had to know him first to be able to even get this. So like I guess what I'm trying to say, all encompassing, is like making connections outside of the film world is a really important thing. It's really easy to be so focused and drilled down on your projects that you don't meet new people, experience new things, and learn new stories.
Yeah, I actually would say that is a principle that applies to pretty much every person's life, no matter what they're doing. If you get sucked into the organization or the thing that you do best, and that is your only perspective, then you lose perspective of other people.
Yeah.
So like in the business world, if you're so focused in on just your business, you lose perspective of all the other connections you could have made. In the ministry world and church world, if you get so sucked into your church's way of doing things and your perspective of how things should be done, and you don't get to know people out on the street who are just living their daily life, who are struggling just to make it, and you get like so focused in on what you're doing, it really takes away from it. So like a more complete human makes a way better documentarian and storyteller, and a way better filmmaker. And so like, what are you doing on the side to expand your horizons, expand your experience? Because as you expand your horizons, experience, and skills, that makes you a better person. And I guarantee you that'll make you a better filmmaker, storyteller, and documentarian, and just a better person, no matter whatever you do in your life.
Yeah. I think, I guess what that really, like the takeaway of that then is to like find something else non-film related. So maybe it's not even this. Like this was I'm helping out a ministry friend, and working with a client that already kind of helped get a distribution deal for you guys. But a bigger issue might be like, what can I do to just help you as a friend? Or what can I do to like meet more people like Alan, who was able to acquire this wood for us, and learn stories from those people. Because those are going to make you a more, like you said, a more complete human. They're going to make you more attuned to storytelling. And I think this is partially why I'm also doing these videos now, is because it helps flex my storytelling muscle, and the constant pressure to every week create a video and figure out how, because I'm traveling, like I'm in Virginia right now. I don't live in Virginia. Last week I was in Wisconsin. The week before that I was in where was I? Georgia.
And you say you don't live in Virginia, but the amount of time you spent here, you probably could have a temporary resident status. But yes, to your point, yes, you get to travel all over.
Yes, which I am very blessed to do. Like I don't mean that as it's not a brag. I'm super excited about it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like doing these videos every week and figuring out how to, even wherever I'm at, tell some kind of story for you guys, I think is a really important way to flex that storytelling muscle. And I think that like it's helping me in my other projects that like I can't talk totally about. Like I'm in the middle of production on several big feature projects that I'm not able to share. So how do I find something that I can share online every week? And I think, with you guys now, doing a podcast every week, you guys are on a break right now, but how has that like helped you, because you're preaching, you're leading a ministry, all of that. How has that weekly content creation helped you out?
Well, I think it's good because it gives discipline, but then it also, like earlier when I was talking about expanding your horizons, it gets you thinking on more than just what you were thinking on that day. And so it's the same principle of when I was on staff at a church as a pastor, I did a master's degree at the same time. And I'll never forget while I was doing those two. Yeah, you do. Because you were at my house one night and I was up till like 2 a.m. taking a test. And, but I'll never forget the principle of doing like two things at the same time. and how when you do them both well, they overlap one another and they actually make you a better person in each of them. So because I was a good student, it made me a better pastor. And as I was trying to fulfill being a good pastor and doing what I was supposed to do, it made me a better student.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing is true like with this podcast that we've started, is as I try to be a good podcast host and grow, learn how to communicate better, it gives all these other things where it overlaps with the other parts of my life, and I become better in those areas. And it helps me grow. It gives me discipline, and it just makes me a better person. So, I mean, like, I have super enjoyed this podcast, and just like getting through the first season, like that's kind of a milestone. It's like we made it through a first season. We've seen some good growth. And so like now we go into season 2 and we're like, hey, how do we switch from just like, we want to make it through the first season? Because that's typically like your goal when you go into podcast. We want to make it through the first season and just be something. And so like now you get to say, how can we be creative? How can we change things up? What do we want to add that's going to make our studio better? You know, like what do we want to do that's going to make us more comfortable? What do we want to do that's going to make us better in our episodes and how we approach things? And so now we can switch mindsets, which is cool because now it's going from discipline to like creation and creativity. And now we get to really grow in that area now.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is like the biggest spark for creativity for you?
So I think that I'm a little schizophrenic when it comes to being creative.
Define what you mean.
What I mean by that is I am not your stereotypical like this, and this always equals this for me.
Okay.
So sometimes like I will get like this creative thought in the middle of a Sunday sermon. And if I don't write it down, I will forget it. So there's times on Sundays where I'll just like write something down and it'll sit there for weeks. Other times I'll be sitting in a coffee shop and something somebody says will just click.
Sure.
And I'll have to write it down. I find that I'm very, I can be more creative when I'm at peace. And when, obviously, as a Christian, I believe you find peace in God. But like, on just a like physical nature level, I get very peaceful. My personality and demeanor get more peaceful when I'm outdoors. And so when I enjoy hunting and things like that, when I can be outdoors or sitting in a hammock, I can find a little bit more creative space than sitting in an office. I find a creative space sometimes in a coffee shop. The buzz that you find in the coffee shop, if I'm in the office, I can't be creative, and it doesn't work. So I have to leave sometimes in order to get creative.
Okay, but is it the buzz from like the background, or is it the buzz from the coffee?
Great question. Can we say both? When I was saying buzz, I meant more of the audio buzz, the background noise and stuff. But yeah, the coffee helps too. So, but anyway, I think that like for me, I couldn't give just like an equation of like this and this always makes me creative, but it's finding the things overarching that can help you be creative and taking advantage of that, and then taking advantage of the creative impulses. So you have the creative experience and then you have the creative impulse. And sure, I want to make a creative experience for myself, but also don't lose that impulse where when it comes to your mind, don't forget it, write it down and take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's really good. A mentor of mine actually was really adamant that I carry a notebook with me all the time and just write stuff down all the time. And I still have a notebook with me. I haven't pulled it out as often because my phone is a lot more handy, but there is something about like just writing ideas down. But I think too, like one thing that really does it for me is like finding the right music for whatever it is that I'm creating. Now, I think it's a little bit different for you because you're working on a podcast versus I'm, making a film or something like that. But, I will go out of my way to try to find the music that fits the vibe for something. And then I feel like I can just write so much better. Do you feel that at all?
Yeah, I find sometimes that when I listen to other good podcasts, that helps me. So in my space, it's not necessarily music, but it's listening to what other people do. And I'm not even talking like
So what you're saying is stealing.
No, I don't even know if I would say stealing as much as just it's not even like that I go and listen to like other Christian podcasts per se.
Sure.
I'm just talking about going to other podcasts and saying, how do they communicate that makes me understand? What are the principles that they use? So maybe it's like the fact that they drill down into into a principle by giving like these creative footholds. Okay,
sure.
so like, are we being practical in our podcast so that people can understand instead of just giving mental knowledge? Or maybe it's just like they break their podcast up in certain ways and it just makes you want to listen, you know? So it's like, hey, on our podcast, maybe we should try like making this segment shorter or having like a little catchy graphic that helps get the point across. It's just finding those things that other people communicate to me that helps me understand, and then saying, okay, I'm not going to steal what they did, but I want to find the principle behind what they did and then apply that in my life. And I find that helps sometimes, that goes back to the audio and the visual side of stimulating your brain.
Yeah, that's really good. I think just for time wise, because we have other things that I'm not actually here to do this.
Yes.
We're here to cover a conference,
yes.
which is also another thing that's not documentary, but
which we could talk about that for a long time.
But I think, wow, I just bumped the mic. Okay. Again, I am not used to this. This is interesting. I think what would be really interesting to talk about really quick is just like a super quick nerdy rundown of like what's all here. We set up a camera in the background so you can kind of see like we've got 3 cameras. But then there's this whole extra thing happening here.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. So while we're filming, what are you doing?
I am like switching over here on a Stream Deck. So our setups is unique in the sense of we don't have a producer behind the camera right now. We're a startup podcast. That's just not where we're at. So when you and I talked about this, I told you, I was like, hey man, like we don't have the budget to hire somebody to be in here, like, cause you have to pay for them to get here and then they're only going to be here for so long. So how can you make that valuable to somebody you can't? So I was like, I need to be able to do it myself. And so that's where you got creative and you were like, okay, how can we make this work for them to do this? And so like during the podcast, I'm over here making sure levels are good. I have my Stream Deck where I can switch between cameras and even our media content. And so I feel sometimes like a chicken with my head cut off when I'm over here, just to be quite honest.
There's a reason why you're sitting there and not me.
Yeah, I like, it makes me feel really kind of behind the game sometimes, but ultimately it's just, you're just learning different things, going back to experience and skills, and then it makes you a better person, a better host. So it's great. So
no, I'm very impressed with your skill level, and maybe you just need to have ADD to be able to do this. I don't know.
Which, by the way, fun fact,
he's done research.
I was never diagnosed, and I don't attribute everything to online tests, but I did take one of those online tests, and I scored in like the 99th percentile for like ADD and ADHD. So I'm just saying, I probably am.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, if you are ADD, you can do things in life that are super applicable and that can help people. So just find your niche and pour into it. But anyway, that's a side note.
This has been fun. This is like just random hangouts, talking about cool, creative things, but also just showing you guys, you know, the behind the scenes of making a podcast and doing other things to make your creative workflow and your creative income, your source of income that, you know, in the creative space, more diversified and to be able to live and do this.
Yeah. And as we kind of, I think we're closing here.
Yes, let's close.
Can I give like 3 really quick things?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just had like, I really wanted to share this with like your viewers and stuff. When it comes to like finding that side gig or that side hustle, whatever you want to call it, just 3 really quick thoughts that have helped me in that. Okay. Number 1, make it manageable. If it's not manageable and it's stealing time from your main focus or your main job or whatever, it's not only going to frustrate you, it's going to frustrate your family because it's going to steal time from them, and it's going to frustrate your boss. And you don't want to frustrate either of those people. And so try and really find something that you can make manageable. Second, make it relatable. And what I mean by that is what you are doing needs to be relatable to a group of people, a demographic of people or someone, so that ultimately it can be beneficial for you and not be a time and money stealer, but it can actually give you, it can create income for you eventually, and it can create revenue, and then it can give you connections. And what you do doesn't have to necessarily create revenue, but it does need to create connections that can build for future things that you can do and grow as a person. So manageable, relatable, and then make it life-giving, because if it's not life-giving and it's not something you're passionate about, it's going to become a like kind of just a drudge to do it. And it's going to just be like, man, I really don't want to do this. And so like for you, I think like, dude, ever since I've known you, and I mean this in the best, most complimentary.
It's a word. It should be a word. Yes.
I mean that in the most like positive way. Like you've always been more technical and kind of not like you're like weird nerd, but like,
oh no, I am fully a nerd
in the good way. Like you can break down something that is technical and media related super easily. And that's kind of like a passion of yours, but it's also kind of like something that just drives you.
Sure.
So for you, building a podcast studio or getting connected in like the media space in some way, that's life-giving, man. Like that's something that you can eat for breakfast. Like that's just like your thing. And so for me, like while I can do some of this stuff, setting up a podcast studio is not really going to be super life-giving to me. I'm just being honest. Like I can do it. And if it's for a friend, I'm willing to help out. And if it's for work, I'm willing to do it. But like me going out on the road and finding things to do, it's just not going to benefit me probably. But like I do really enjoy certain aspects of like ministering in a local church. And so I've been looking at how can I get more involved in my local church and be a better volunteer, be a better member, do all these things. And like that's life-giving to me. Now that's not making me any money, but like that is fulfilling me in a different way. And that goes back to it's relatable, it's manageable, and like all those things.
Right.
But like your side hustle really needs to be it really needs to be life-giving, because if it's not, it's really gonna just be a drudge, and it's gonna be like, why am I even doing this? So those were my quick 3 things for finding a side hustle.
Yeah, no, those are really good. I mean, can you tell that he was a pastor?
I know, right?
He had 3 points.
What can we say? It's tried and true, baby.
I think though too, like an important thing too is to talk about is like this isn't necessarily like a ministry channel or a Christian channel necessarily, but we're both Christians, and so we see the benefit of that in your life. And I think that like as a documentarian, also being in church is going to help you find a lot of really cool stories as well. And I'm not saying go to church to find stories for your documentaries. Obviously. I mean, if that gets you in the doors to church, maybe that's a good thing. Is
that the whole like finding a spouse thing, and making a documentary type thing? Oh no, are they on the same plane? No, just kidding.
No,
I'm just kidding.
But I will say like getting involved, like maybe you aren't a Christian. I would highly recommend looking into that. But maybe just even like investing in your local community through volunteering or other things that is going to put you in places where you experience other life outside of just the world of like video production and podcast building and things like that. So
what you're saying is get outdoors.
Yeah, well,
get out of your doors. Get out of your walls. Get out of your 4 walls and find some experiences.
Exactly. Find some experiences. Going to church is probably a good example of a very high quality experience. But any experiences really, it's not just that. And I think that that's really going to help you in your creative pursuits. Is that it? Is that the end? Do we have anything else to talk about?
I think that's the end.
Okay, well,
is that the end for you? I'll put it on you again. There you go. I switched back over to you.
Obviously, I am not a professional podcaster.
Nor am I a professional switcher or producer.
But, well, hey, listen, we had fun. I'm so glad that I didn't even know which camera you're on. Which camera?
I'm on you.
Oh, you're on me. Hi. I hope you guys enjoyed this little dialogue. I should probably hold my microphone. Oh, there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this dialogue, and I hope that it helped you out. It was a little all over the board because that's what friends do when we talk. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And now you need to stop watching this video and start making something. I believe in you, and I'm going to see you in the next one.
Go outside.
Are we done? Yeah, let's stop recording.